Human remains are a medical reality, porous, decaying calcium. Yet millions see these exact fragments as something entirely different, a radiant, supernatural anchor to the divine. We call these objects relics, from the Latin reliciae, meaning things left behind. Their enduring existence reflects a persistent tension in the human experience. While faith is inherently invisible, the human mind often seeks a physical tether to ground abstract concepts in the reality of the senses. This diagram illustrates how the Church organized this physical connection into a specific hierarchy of the holy. At the top, first-class relics are the biological remains of a saint, like bone, hair, or blood. Second-class relics cover the items they used in life, like clothing or books. And third includes any new, everyday object that has been physically pressed against a first-class relic. This rigid classification system does not exist to catalog the dead. It is a practical tool for the living, designed to help believers measure their exact physical distance from the divine. To close that physical distance, people push their bodies to the absolute limit. Consider the Camino de Santiago, a sprawling network of dirt paths stretching hundreds of miles across Spain, leading entirely to a single tomb. Ask anyone walking that path, and you'll uncover a psychological paradox. The blisters, the exhaustion, and the joint pain of walking for weeks are often described as the true reward, a necessary physical purification before standing in the presence of the holy. Even in our highly technological, comfort-driven modern age, millions of people willingly abandon their routines to subject themselves to ancient hardships, and they do it all just to stand near a piece of bone. That proximity literally built the modern world. Early Christian architecture dictated a very specific rule. Every permanent altar had to be constructed directly over the grave of a martyr. The buildings grew outward from the bones. As the spiritual value of these objects grew, so did the danger surrounding them. This gave rise to furta sacra, or holy theft. Entire cities would launch heists in the middle of the night to steal a neighboring town's patron saint, sparking highly lucrative medieval black markets. This obsession easily transcended religious devotion and bled directly into military ambition. In 1938, Adolf Hitler seized the Holy Lance, the rusted iron spearhead rumored to have pierced the side of Christ, firmly believing the ancient artifact would guarantee victory in war. Throughout history, the possession of a relic functioned as a high-stakes geopolitical currency. It granted very real, secular power to the city or leader who held it, serving as a physical token of divine endorsement. When you apply modern empirical science to these ancient objects, the results clash fiercely with tradition. The Shroud of Turin serves as a primary battleground for this ideological collision. In 1988, rigorous carbon dating concluded the linen cloth was a medieval forgery, but later researchers discovered microscopic pollen grains embedded deep in the fabric that are entirely specific to the native flowers of Jerusalem, throwing the carbon test results into immediate dispute. We see the same scientific friction when investigating the incorruptibles, saints whose biological remains mysteriously seem to resist natural decomposition. Take Bernadette Soubirous, whose skin appeared flawlessly preserved decades after her death. Yet investigating these miracles often requires acknowledging human intervention. The Vatican now openly admits that thin wax masks and coatings are occasionally applied to these bodies to maintain the aesthetic illusion of perfect preservation over the centuries. When forensic science successfully challenges the literal biological authenticity of a relic, human faith simply adapts to the new data. The true power has never resided in the exact arrangement of carbon atoms. It resides entirely in the symbol. Theologians explain this through the concept of the intercessor. Believers view the saint not as a deity, but as a localized, highly approachable portal, a sympathetic friend who can communicate directly with an otherwise unreachable God. This localized connection is why shrines are flooded with stories of miraculous healing. The medical community typically classifies these sudden recoveries as an intense manifestation of the placebo effect, the mind healing the body under extreme emotional suggestion. The believer defines the exact same biological event as direct divine intervention. This animated diagram illustrates a psychological mechanic we can call the psychology of the fragment. human cognition does not actually require a complete, intact object to feel its full presence. A single tiny glowing particle can radiate enough narrative energy to let our brains form a massive, complex constellation of meaning. Because of this, a microscopic splinter of aged wood is treated with the exact same reverence as an entire ancient forest. Ultimately, the relic functions strictly as a psychological mirror. It silently amplifies and reflects back whatever deep-seated trauma, grief, or desperate hope the pilgrim brings to the glass case. We often think of these items entirely in the context of ancient history. But today, relics bypass medieval dirt roads, traveling globally in first-class jet seats on heavily protected international tours. The creation of relics is an active, ongoing process. Look no further than Blessed Carlo Acutis, the first millennial saint, to prove this phenomenon is rapidly evolving in the 21st century. Because of Carlo, everyday consumer technology, his personal laptop, the pair of Nike sneakers he wore, has been instantly transformed into sacred, venerated artifacts. The definition of a holy object constantly upgrades right alongside society. It proves that our primal human need for physical connection easily outpaces our most advanced technological progress. Walk into any major cathedral, and you will see a deliberate contrast. We use solid gold and precious jewels to house these fragments, using immense material wealth to honor the extreme poverty of figures who wore patched, dirt-stained robes. But whether the object in the case is cut diamond, a piece of rusted iron, or a handful of dust, its physical composition is entirely irrelevant to its actual power. The miracle of the relic lies in its capacity to unite millions of people across thousands of years in shared human vulnerability and hope. It bridges vast gaps of time through a single physical point of contact. Look closely at the things you carry. What are the physical objects, the mementos, or the daily routines that you use to anchor your own invisible beliefs into reality?